All right. Hello, and everyone in the room. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi. It's so good to
Hi.
see you. Thank you for coming.
Finally, I'm sorry to have missed the previous ones.
So hard to figure out times for everybody in all these different time zones, especially for those that are in, New Zealand or Australia. It's
Yeah.
tough. How are you, Anita?
Hi, how are you?
Doing
Hi.
good.
Hi, Anna. I got your reply to my email, so I'll reply to you today.
Oh, no worries. It's good that I showed up today so people can see my face, and I don't think I'm like this crazy lady writing long emails.
Oh, you did great. This is perfect. I'll keep my eye on. I know David is in Kenya and it's like 11 p.m. there, and he's trying really hard to come in. And I'm not sure. We'll see who else we get today. Oh, yay. Ray is coming. We'll have Ray come. So a little bit of a different format today. Instead of just listening to me talk, which there'll be a fair amount of that because I'm not sick of my own voice yet today. We'll do a group activity too, which I'm looking forward to. Oh, poor David is trying so hard to get in here. All right, we'll see if you can make it. Hopefully you can make it. Sometimes it's hard with the internet over there. Yeah, what's up, Nash?
Hi.
Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see everybody.
Yeah, just waiting for Ray to get in, and poor David's in Kenya and he's trying really hard to get in. I think he's having a bandwidth issue. It's like 11 p.m. there. Well, how is everyone doing? Doing okay?
Yeah, our so I'm currently in Austin, so there's almost 22 people from our family and extended family that are here for the
Oh,
entire week, and everybody is trying to work from home, so it's almost a chaos because everybody's running to different meetings and all of that with their laptops and everything. So it's fun.
oh my gosh, that's awesome. It's
Awesome.
so nice that everybody could come. I mean, it's pretty exciting to have your family from all over the place all kind of joining you here, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And my mom and dad, they came from Nepal after 4 years.
Wow.
So they've just been kind of traveling to many different places. They were with us for about a week. Now everybody's in Austin, and then they will go to Seattle and all of that. So they're doing a full tour.
That's awesome. So exciting. Great. Well, hey Ray, how's it going? Good to see you. She's got the UP banner behind, maybe a little frozen. Hi.
Hi. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
It's
I will
okay.
just drop in and say hi. My internet has been acting.
It happens. Happens to the best of us. Well, we'll just do our best with that. I think sometimes you're right. It's better to turn off your video if your internet is getting a little splotchy, but let's have a two-word check-in. So everybody just want to like choose 2 words, how you're feeling today, moving into the session, moving into the week. It's a holiday week in the States. You can go first, Anita.
I am both excited and exhausted. I don't know what it, I cannot wake up today. Coffee, caffeine. We, the weather changed dramatically here and we're having like this weird rainy, snowy day. The first one kind of all season, which is unusual for us. And so I'm just like, but I'm also excited for class and everything that's to come. So
Awesome. What about you, Anna?
I I am also tired. I am on a sabbatical trying to get back into the job market. And today I just had an interview that didn't go so well, but it was with a Belgian company, and it was 1 a.m. here, Australian time. And I couldn't sleep since then. So like I decided to wake up at 4 and I was like going through like the videos, the TED Talks and so on. Slightly exhausted, but like, yeah, I think I'll just take a nap after this session and see how it goes. But
Perfect.
excited to be here.
All right. And Nish, do you have anything else that you want to share? 2 words.
I just feel really grateful this whole week, kind of just to have everybody. And interestingly, since I am the youngest of the family, but then it feels a lot a lot different because a lot of the people that are here are younger than me. It's all my niece and nephews. So yeah, it's a whole big young Gen Z crowd, I guess. So it's a very interesting dynamic. So we're super grateful that everybody's here and kind of like all of that. And excited just because this is also for us, even though it's kind of a lot of celebrations and holidays and all of that, it's also for a CPG brand. It's kind of like the peak time for
Cool.
sales and a lot of things. So a lot of chaos happening in the company with everything going on. But yeah, excited, chaotic, but super grateful.
That's great. I'm really excited to connect with you this week, Nish, and I have an article that if I don't get it over to you by today, I'll post it on the class site for everybody. But a couple sessions ago, a couple years ago, one of my good friends came and spoke to the class. He started a company called Sheer ID, and it's a for-profit company. They've raised over $100 million, and I had found an article about an interview that he had done, and he had some really potent pieces. But yeah, so just kind of thinking about like for-profit models. And if you guys haven't checked out the T website, do it. It's cool. There's like, it would be a great Christmas present, but like it's just also really interesting to see how this product has developed in terms of like how Nish has connected the tea growers. You can get a little QR code. The packaging is really cool. The story is really good. So in terms of like those of us who are newer to fundraising, he's, already raised a significant amount of money. So he has a lot of these tools already in play, which is really fun for me because I'm like, okay, we're not at the beginning. We're like, there's a lot of different conversations that we could have. So, and that's so much to say, if anybody ever needs some extra time with me or would desire that, I love having time with students, because what I really want is for the materials that you have here, but also for my, consulting ability to be really real time for you and to give you advice and to really look at your own personal context and make sure that it is relevant and that it's supportive and that it gives you the types of things that you need. So poor David is slacking me that he can't get in. He tried really hard. That's too bad.
Real quick, Nish, I already have stuff in my cart, but I need to know what the favorite is. Your favorite.
That's difficult. But no, the black tea, the Kumari Gold, that's probably my favorite.
Okay, you can message me too, but
I will.
it's been up for a couple of days. I keep meaning to email you, but
I know. I'm like, what do you do? Do you do one of this, like the packs of like the sampler packs, So many choices, but okay. So I do want to do a fun activity and share with you guys about something that I love, which is called liberating structures. But first, I just kind of want to go over where we're at right now with class and go over a tool. So can you see that deck? Okay. Ta-da! So we've been going through our lean canvases. I've been really asking you guys to refine and go deeper in the way that you talk about the work, and really think about how you communicate to both your beneficiaries or clients, purchasers of your work, but also, you know, potential funders, investors, partners, and think about, you know, how you can connect them to the problem, how you can connect them to your unique value proposition, your unfair advantage, your solution, what channels you have to use. We kind of talked through personas and journeys this week. And, you know, I gave you some good examples in the class or in the resources for simple journeys, and then far more advanced ones where we can kind of think about how to shift every time we have a negative experience. So, you know, every time something goes wrong in your life, sure, go ahead and spend some time thinking about, you know, how that felt. But one way to get ourselves out of a rut is to think about how we're going to improve and do better for the next time, so we can plan. Being able to share these types of things with our teams, we're able to train our team to know how to effectively build relationships with the many different personas of the types of stakeholders that engage with our work. So if anyone has questions on those, certainly happy to field any persona or journey questions now, or I can just keep moving on. All right, so, and feel free to stop me because I know I talk fast. I'm from New Jersey. My brain's going real fast. So one of the most important things, tools that I think I've been able to bring to this class is this pipeline plan. This is a way to really think about the different types of funders, the different types of purchasers, you know, of your work, and to think about what types of goals that you want to have in terms of how much money you want to raise from each different segment, and to make a plan of how you're going to actually engage with them, solicit them, report back to them, what types of staff you're going to need, how much it's going to cost to reach out to those folks, and really how to budget for the fundraising aspects of your work. So sometimes this tool can be a little bit confusing to people. Sometimes we have to innovate it to actually fit our context. You know, some people aren't going to be potentially maybe seeing a lot of individuals or seeing any foundations or seeing any corporations. Maybe you're just looking at different types of customer groups. You know, is it business to business? Is it business to consumer through this earned income? Are you trying to raise impact capital? So for your particular project, if you're not trying to raise money in any of these segments, I don't need to see that on your actual worksheet. So when you turn that in, no big deal if you don't have anything for there, because all of our business models are going to be different. And that's not only okay, that's kind of the nature of the game. So as you go through this, and this is so tiny, let's see if I can make it bigger. Oh, yay. So as you go through this, and some people really get scared when they see like the income goal that I have for this example, because some folks are going to be raising very small amounts of money and not, you know, million US, and some people are going to be raising more. But don't let that scare you. It's just, you know, for an example. This is for an actual project that I worked on. So I segmented each of these revenue sources and got really clear on how much money I wanted to raise from each of these segments in a calendar year. So you'll see that under the income goal. Go ahead, Anita.
David just put in that he's, I think on our WhatsApp, that he's trying to get into the meeting. I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, it's still like, it
Okay.
says, I keep trying to admit him every time he pops up. Thank you for caring about that. Yeah, I know. I feel badly because I think he's in Kenya, they call it bundles. It's like and I just hate to think that he's like wasting all of his bundles to get on here. But yeah. Let me make sure. Okay. Oh, here he is again. We'll keep trying. So don't let that scare you, but you also want to segment those revenue sources to think about what the average investment of each of those segments are going to be. So what that means is if I have a group of individuals and I've segmented them, I know that I have a specific persona group that generally tends to give around, say, $10,000. I might also have another group that generally tends to give $100. So I want to make, I want to have an income goal from those segments, and I want to have a good idea of how much money each of those might be able to give. Because far too often we enter into a situation where, best case scenario, the funder says, or the investor says, well, how much money do you need? And it's not a great look if you say, how much money do you have? You really kind of want to have a goal. And this is a tricky game. It takes a lot of research because sometimes we're not really aware of, how much that person is capable of giving. So I've unfortunately had the experience of fundraising a lot where I've had funders tell me, well, if you had asked for this amount, I would have given it to you, but you left money on the table because you didn't ask for enough. On the flip side, sometimes you think this person might be able to invest or donate or purchase a lot more, and that's not really what they're thinking. But you kind of just want to do the research, and it's all of these things like your budgets and these plans, they're all iterative, and you're always learning from every experience that you have, every conversation that you have. So all of this has to tie really closely into your budget. You want to know how much effort to put towards getting, different segments, different types of revenue sources. And that way you can direct your team and have a plan. So we kind of start to pare this down where each of these revenue source segments will have its own specific type of plan, because you're not going to go to an individual in the same way that you're going to go to a foundation or a government agency. So each of these have to have different plans. Big reason why I love this document is that it's a giant, sure, gigantic, but still one piece, one page document that gives your entire team, everybody that you're working with, the idea of what your plan is for how you reach all of these folks. Now, smallest column in the group here, but probably the most important one, is this prospects. I cannot say enough that the number of face-to-face interactions that you have is the key predictor of your success. Keeping a lot of prospects in that pipeline is the way that you're going to be successful. Sometimes, you'll have a return rate of only 10%, for every 100 people that you've gone and talked to, only 10 people are interested in giving any type of funding and potentially giving funding. Sometimes for, a business, it's even smaller. I mean, sometimes it's just about building those relationships before you even start to get towards the funding. So in the article that I'm going to be sending from my friend who started the for-profit company, Share ID, he's talking about how, his rate was way less when he started. And it was a lot about learning how to talk about the work that he was doing, why it was important, helping people to understand it, working on his vernacular. So, the more people you have as a prospect, the better. And you're not the only person that has to think of those. Engage everyone, engage other funders, engage your teams. If someone says, wants to take a meeting with you, they like what you're talking about, you can ask them, who else do you think I should ask for advice? How many, are there other people that you think would be interested who could provide me some sort of positive information, help me, give me advice, might even be interested in funding me? So, a lot to say there, but prospects is a big, big thing. The more you have, the more success you're going to have. So for each of the next ones, the acquisition, cultivation, and solicitation and reporting, this is kind of your plan for how you're going to find these potential revenue sources, how you're going to cultivate them. So that means how you're going to build a relationship with them, how you're going to actually ask them for something, for money, whatever it is, and how you're going to report back to them about that success. So in the template that I have for you, I've put in some canned in responses. It's okay for your homework for the purpose of the work if you don't, edit those for now. But if you really want to be successful, you need to think about what you're going to try and then iterate all of those. Make your own recipe book, make your own playbook about how you acquire, cultivate, solicit, and report back to a funder. And then the last couple things here are you going to have people that are going to volunteer to support you, and who are they? And sometimes that means if you have someone on your board, if you have a board, they're going to go along with you, or they're going to help provide resources. They'll make an introduction. They'll make a phone call. So if there's going to be people who are supporting you, what staff members are going to be directly involved in cultivating, engaging, soliciting, acquiring those donors, reporting back to them. Who is that going to be? Because if we have a big nonprofit organization, how much FTE, how much time in a week is someone going to give towards these fundraising activities? If you're expecting your boss to come along with you on 40 meetings a week, that's going to be like a full-time job, right? And so this gives us an ability to kind of think about how much does it cost for our organization to spend the time that it takes to fundraise. This is a high level thought, but if you can start to think about this, it's a positive thing. So that's the amount of staff time. So if I say 0.5 FTE, if they work 40 hours a week, that would be 20 hours. Okay. If it's 2.0 FTE, that means 2 people working a full-time schedule of 40 hours a week who are dedicated to the work of fundraising. And the staff cost is how much their salary is, how much per hour they are paid to be there at that organization. For the ops cost, that means opportunity. So that would be how much does it cost you to print materials, to get marketing stuff together, to host a website, to have a dinner, have people for coffee. So baking in all of that. And then from there, you can see that you get a budget. So that budget is going to tell you how much money it actually costs to do the fundraising. So it adds up the staff time, the resource and material creation time. And then you can kind of see if you need to make $1 million, what percent of that additionally do you have to raise to do the administrative tasks of doing the fundraising for the work? It doesn't have to be perfect for the homework right now, but this is what it means to actually get in there and do the planning for your organization or for your projects or your programs to see how much it costs to do fundraising. For the purpose of the homework, doesn't have to be, perfect. Just give it some thought, try it out. I've had some people do these really mega, intense ones where you're like, whoa, this is a great plan. This is crazy. It's the whole thing. And I've also had people like, I can just do, I can only do what I can do. And I can't even think about things, beyond this level. So I encourage you to give the tool a shot and just kind of kick some reality into seeing how much it actually takes to do the fundraising for the organization, what steps that you're going to take. And then, once you have a tool like this, sharing it with your board, sharing it with your internal team, letting them see all of the things that go into fundraising, because some people have the opinion that that's the fun job, oh, you're just out there going out to coffee and having a good time and taking so-and-so out to dinner. And it takes a lot more than that. It takes a lot of planning and relationship building. And, like I said, like I will always say, if you ask for advice, you will get money. If you ask for money, you'll get advice. Everything's about building a relationship. So before I go on, see if I can stop that for a sec. Any questions on that? It's a lot.
I think it's rather a comment, but I was previously working with the UN, and I used to manage those kinds of budgets. it's nostalgic to see like the level of detail, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like I'm no closer to that as other participants are, like Nish with his wonderful business, Anita with her consulting business, and so on. So it's like, okay, I've come from there, but right now I think my budget will be way simpler because it's not like in orbit. So
Yeah.
but it's
And that's a
homework.
positive thing. Yeah. And I mean, that's a positive thing too, because it's good to start, every time I've stepped into an organization as a consultant, it's so nice to start, and build than to like have to like put foundation under a house that's already, sitting there on unsteady territory. So yeah. And I mean, also to say, sometimes these tools work for people and sometimes they don't. And that's like, we never want to get stuck into a rut where we feel like, okay, I've used my bag of tools, like this isn't working, I'm going to move on to the next thing. You always have to be innovating things that work really well for your context. So the fun of it is like, how can I get in and innovate or, just distill these types of planning templates or tools to make them relevant for me. And when that happens, like, I love it when people, or even make it more complex. I love it when people share that with me because I guarantee I'll have 100 more students who are going to say the exact same thing. And we'll be like, and I'll say, well, look at what this person developed. What do you think about this? And it's a lovely thing to be able to share that. Sweet. Anything else? All right. So now we're going to do a liberating structure. To fix my view here because I took it down. All right, so now we're going to do a liberating structure. So liberating structures, has anybody heard of those before? I know Anita has. Okay, good. So there's, I don't know, I think maybe less than 40. I don't know. We're always making new structures, but liberating structures are facilitation techniques for meetings and conferences and team, collaboration efforts that span the gamut of, working on conflicts, trying to find strategy, really understanding the systems where we work together, and really just killing the boring meeting. And you can string them together and they're all free. It's open access. You don't have to be certified in liberating structures to use them. The way that you start to use them is just you jump in there and you do some exploration and you find something, that sounds like it might work for you and you just start trying it. And used with different groups. They might be called different things, but I found them really pivotal in my work. And every time I go in and consult with a social impact organization, my go-to process is always using liberating structures. What you're trying to do is unlock the genius from every corner in the room. So I do product innovation at the corporation I work with. I facilitate product innovation. We call it PIG, the Product Innovation Group. And I use liberating structures as a facilitation technique for this group all the time. There are two structures that are very, very similar, and they're about helping and giving advice to colleagues or friends immediately, and in a way that can provide some good advice and help people to move from one stuck place to another, or just, to kind of share collective intelligence. One is called Troika Consulting, and it's used with small groups, kind of like what we have here. And the other one is called Wise Crowds. The only difference between Troika and Wise Crowds is that Wise Crowds is used when you have more than just a handful of people. Usually it would be like, Troika would be like two consultants, two consultants and one person talking about a challenge that they were having. So like 3 people total. So, and then if it was going to be Wise Crowds, we would do it, in a group like this. So if there are more of us, I might break us out into a breakout room, but with the number of people that we have right now, I think it would be hard to do the breakout groups because the math wouldn't work out. So wise crowds make it possible for us to instantly engage a small group of people in helping one another. So we're going to have people from the group. I'd hope to run through this probably twice before we call it a day today. So I want two people, starting with one, to come and think about a problem that they have, a challenge that they have with fundraising that you want to ask the consultant team about. So you think about a challenge that you've had with fundraising or with your organization, even just a challenge that you're having with the social impact that you're trying to make. And the consultants will support you on that. This is really helpful because it helps people to learn how to ask for help. And it's a really good thing to use within teams because you never know if someone who's not engaged in the type of work that you're engaged in every day might have some sort of a great idea and you would have never asked them before. So it gives us the ability to kind of engage people from all across the organization from lots of different experiences. Poor David is still trying to join. Okay, so who wants to be the first person that kind of presents a challenge? Does anyone feel brave? Nish. All right.
I can go. I have ongoing challenges, so
Great. So what we're going to do is we'll have you present your challenge, whatever your request for help is, request for insight. Only want you to take like maybe 2 minutes on it. And then the consultants, who's everyone else in the room, you guys can ask some clarifying questions. And we only want to give that maybe like 3 minutes. And then I'm going to have Nish turn off his camera and just take notes. In a live session, we would have the person just turn their back, to the team and just listen. That helps us from like interrupting and not listening, so we're also working on our listening skills, which everybody, could always use help with. So we'll have you turn off your camera and we will kind of talk about what your problem is that you posed, make some recommendations, and then when we're kind of complete with that, we'll have you turn your camera back on. And, from the notes that you took, from what you heard from our conversation, let us know if any of that stuff felt like potent or relevant or good, if there's anything that you actually think is useful and what you might be taking away. Clear as mud?
sounds great.
Okay, so present your challenge and let us know kind of what you're working on.
Perfect. So I always find it difficult to kind of explain the entire thing during these kind of exercises, to explain exactly the whole entire business model and the fundraising and all of that. So I'll try to be very brief in terms of the company that we bring teas, organic teas from Nepal and distribute it here. Very social impact focused. We're really trying to bridge the gap between consumers and the producers. Biggest challenge right now is the type of funding that fundraising that we're doing. It's not familiar to people. So the equity crowdfunding model, which is essentially where you are raising money from not just professional investors. It's actually just through anybody in the world that has literally with just $250, people can actually invest in the company. So that's kind of like the model. That's one very difficult thing to talk to them about how is this even possible? And is this even legit? That's one big question that they get.
Yeah.
The second thing is the model where we are raising, it's a safe note, which is a tricky it's very common in the tech world, and Silicon Valley startups, but not necessarily for traditional investors. And we're not even going for traditional investors. We're going for common people, right? So that's another big challenge about what do I get when I invest is kind of like a big challenge. And that I think is more in terms of social impact, because we are obviously thinking about returns and all of that stuff, but then it's also quite challenging to explain to them, what do they exactly get in return of kind of like the return on investment, especially because it's so social impact focused. So those are kind of like three challenges bundled up in one. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much that helps or actually deviates us from giving a good thought. So that's kind of where I am right now. And again, one of the bigger challenges, because of all of these limitations, is reaching the right people, reaching potential funders, because I personally have almost like exhausted my initial network, I guess. But then getting to that next phase of people where they would be interested. So that's kind of, yeah, I think 4 or 5 problems muddled into one.
I love it. Does anyone have any clarifying questions for Nish before we have him turn off his camera?
Yes, Anna.
I wanted to ask, what is like the non-traditional way of reaching to the target consumer that you were talking about? Is it like the crowdfunding thing that you do as a main, or is there any other ways that you reach the crowd that you've been reaching now?
So the crowdfunding is the easiest way for me, just because it has all of the information. So it is, though I would if I had the time and if that was actually possible, but it's not possible for somebody who's just thinking about, $250 or $500 to invest, to actually spend a time for interactions and all of that stuff. So I just send the link, which has the entire data on the financials, also what are other investors saying, plus the video and all of that stuff, which should give essentially all of the information. They can act right away. So that's the actual platform that I'm sharing, where people can go and invest. But yeah, that's essentially the biggest chunk. However, I've not denied any calls in terms of whatever, regardless of the amounts. But yeah, essentially that's the way I'm reaching consumers. That's the link is the main thing that I'm sharing. Does that answer your question? Was that the question?
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out like the revenue streams. I haven't, I lost the first 2 sessions, so I wasn't very sure that the crowdfunding was the main way that you used.
Yeah. So essentially so investors with, there's a lead investor who has invested $100,000 from that platform itself. So
Okay.
that is going to be the main platform that everybody's going to invest through. But those are going to be treated differently. I don't want to get into the complexities, but yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Anybody else have a question before we kind of
Need a question?
Oh yeah,
So I'm on the invest site, which is very comprehensive. For people who want to know more but are not running through, do you have like a one-pager that is more simplified to the approach and benefits?
I did previously, but then from my experience, it was the initial one pager. The whole WeFunder site was more kind of again comprehensive in a way where they could actually see me talking about the whole thing. So that was more fruitful. So kind of gave up on the one pager. But yeah, I kind of do have it somewhere.
All right, any other questions? Okay, Nish, I'm gonna have you turn off your screen. I'll let you know when we're ready, but just take notes and listen. And then whatever comes up that is useful, you can let us know. So, this is your time to shine, guys, as the consultants. It's really good to harness collective intelligence and have you put yourself into the shoes of the expert. also, I think you don't really need to have multiple years of experience in this world to have really good ideas. So go ahead. What do you think?
I mean, I'll go from what my question was about the one pager or the simplicity, in that there is incredible information if you go on the wefunder.com / Nepal Tea Collective. But even in this social impact world, people still want to know what they're going to get. And I feel like you have to roll over this small button here to get to investor perks. I don't know. Can I share my screen if people want to see it, or
Sure.
just so I can show you what I'm oh, it's disabled.
Oh, I might be able to fix that. Oh, I got you. I got you, girl.
There we go. I think this is it. So unless I'm missing something, which I could be because I'm kind of fast scrolling, here's this incredible information about who they are and what the what their benefits are, the team, press that they've received. Great stuff, right? Awards, I love it. But then over here is how you get to see the investor perks. And I happened to roll over it accidentally. And it popped up. So, one of my things, just from a psychological marketing background, would be, is there a way to have a pop-up, larger or whatever, for him to be able to send them to quickly when somebody says, well, what do I get for this?
Yeah.
And so
yeah, and I'd be curious, like, how that's segmented, like how many people are giving at all of those different giving levels that it says there, like investor perks, $250, $1,000, $10,000, $25,000. And are there different strategies that are employed when you're reaching each of those different groups? Because totally can understand, like, if you have a smaller donation, you're not going to want to, just like our strategy on the revenue sources pipeline thing, you're not going to put a lot of effort into building this huge relationship with somebody that's, a smaller sized donor, but someone who is investing at a much higher level, is there some sort of a white glove approach to that, where as part of the relationship building, you're introducing what the model, the safe note model is that he's using here, and kind of educating about that? Because I think it's cool. He is giving people the opportunity to learn, tap into this business and be a part of it. And, to not be your typical angel investor. So there's a lot. Yeah, that's interesting. What else?
I mean, you can get a little bit of information, but some of it is just small. Your eye isn't necessarily drawn to it, but there's some drop downs here that'll take you to the safe concept, but maybe not make this a drop down so it's more apparent. And then I would say a lot of people who are at that $250 range might want to know not just that they're getting the reserve tea, but what it means, like, in all the perks, right? When you're investing in a social impact investment, even a for-profit one, is what's happening on the other end with those dollars? How is the world changing? How are the people, the workers in Nepal's lives being impacted? To me, would be a perk to add to the earning of the perks.
Yeah. So there's like development, more of the journey for each of those perk levels, like how to, how are they, what can we anticipate people are pushing back on? And, what happens when we're not successful, when it happens when we are, why were we, what types of resources do we need to share, materials? Because, this is obviously successful one-stop shop, but bringing it to the next level, it's like, yeah, how do you have to like segment that strategy out a little bit?
Yeah, we move so fast that to get down here to, you know, what a public benefit corporation does, you know, is just in the journey from how we view information as we get it so fast and furious, especially in today's world. You know, just expressing it may be different graphically and usability from a user experience wise, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Some opportunities for this really great information.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that because I have looked at this a couple times and watched the video, which is wonderful. But I didn't ever see like the actual segmented perks that came up. I don't think I hovered my thing
Yeah.
over there. I was like learning, I was like, oh, this is cool, this part about safe, but I didn't see that like you actually got those rewards exchanges for that level of gift or that level of investment. Sorry. What else, you guys? What else do you think?
Can I?
Yeah.
For me, it's a mix of two things that I think. So I've watched the TED Talk with Don Palota
Oh, yeah.
about like the investments in people working for fundraising. And sometimes we are trying to cut costs or like making it the next level thing. But I was wondering if Niche has like a sales team or of sorts, or somebody that is like mapping intensively potential investors and trying to do like to work as appointment setters, because the whole web page is beautiful. There's a lot of information. I just think that, as you both said, like just hovering there is not enough. It should be like fixed somewhere and clear what are the perks of investing. But like if we are aiming for the biggest investors, say in the 25K or in the 50K end, as one of the personas that Shelley told about, the Janet, I think like the ones who invest more, they want a face-to-face. They want a more personalized approach. And it would be nice if he had like somebody like on the side doing all of this end work, you know, like listing up coffee shops or organic stores that might place his product as of interest, or like a CEO that, you know, might have interest in this kind of product, and set an appointment, a video call, and for him as like the face of the company, a CEO talking in the video call, I think it would have a different impact. And it's also connected to one of, I think, the first texts that told about we tend to think that like sending an email to a bunch of people is effective, but in reality it's not as effective as having like the face-to-face. So if not in real life face-to-face over a cup of tea, like at least in a video call, it might be something interesting. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I love that.
Yeah, to Anna's point, even, you know, one thing to potentially consider is, you know, if you have these email lists, send out an email, but the offer is to join Nish and his team on a virtual tea date where, you know, you can opt in, and maybe he has a tea time every week for an hour where people can drop in and he can talk about the tea he's drinking and the social impacts and maybe stories coming back from that week. I know every week, because I've had the honor of being following his journey a little bit through classes, there seems to be something new. So those weekly tea times could, you know, and to Anna's point, maybe somebody mentions the tea when they're at coffee in a coffee shop, and, you know, the owner isn't going to buy the tea maybe right away, but he'd allow Nish to put a little display up to engage investors through these little pop-up spaces, and then his tea time kind of creates more interest in the impacts.
I love that. That's great. Anyone else?
This isn't a fundraising idea, but I just kind of scrolling around the website, like a subscription club. I don't know if that's something that you have or offer, but you know, like the I mean, I really love the packaging, and when I was in the US, I was in part of a lot of subscription things. But all like fair trade type things, and I love tea, and I would love getting like the tea of the month, you know, and you know, accessories that go along with it, you know, including one of the organizations that I support. They would even include like a feature around like one of their, you know, one of the people who worked at the corporation, and so you know, like it's like a mini bio on someone who like was really being supported by the work, and you know, yeah, you get the little the tea, the accessory, maybe a little mini bio, something like that could be really a way to stay connected to the purpose of the organization as well. So my 2 cents. Sorry, I'm so late though.
No, you're good.
Well, and to Ray's point, even having maybe one lower donation point for people, that 250 is too big, but maybe the, you know, the subscription is like a $50 point where they get a tea once a quarter, you know, with this human interest. I know, like when my kids were younger, you know, if we were trying to find an opportunity, they would have to put in some of their babysitting money or whatever. So $50 and then they get something in the mail is much more accessible to that aspect, than $250 as an entry point. So maybe one less smaller entry point for that.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, you know, and I'm thinking there's from a high level, there's a lot of places where you could just, if you're not already, be a part of the conversation. So like, you know, how are you getting press about the work that you're doing? What types of industry groups or conferences are you a part of? Are you a part of the movement for fair trade? Are you, and there's, I mean, I know that there's a lot of really interesting people. Actually, I had a student previously who I can't wait to connect you with, who works with artisans in Nepal, who, you know, like you're selling, who has a similar mission where she sells lots of different types of products, and that helps a social mission. You know, like, are you engaging with people all on that level and then going out and asking advice, but also, you know, putting yourself out there as a presenter, putting yourself out there in those sector groups. Food and beverage is a huge sector strategy that communities all over the United States and the world, you know, have a lot of skin in the game. So like, you know, there's so many different business models in terms of how to tap into potential people that want to invest and be a part of something like this. I'm gonna be, and you know, even just the idea of like the safe note, like how are you promoting yourself as a forward thinker, as like one of the luminaries in the world of providing investment opportunities? Are you going to those tech people that have won it before and asking them like, how did you get this? You know, how did you get the funding this way? And kind of borrowing from their success, but then also sharing your story so that when they like hang out with their friends over a pint of beer that night, they can not be like, oh yeah, you know, I played Fortnite or whatever. They can say, hey, you'll never believe this like awesome thing that I talked to this guy about. And I think, you know what, like you know, makes people feel really tied into that. So those are just things that come to mind for me. It's just like making yourself one of the people that represents the, you know, highest luminaries in these places where you're competing, and not being afraid to say like, I have skin in the game. This is what I'm bringing. I'm looking for advice, and I'm looking for that advice to bring me money and success for not just me, but for all these people that are back in Nepal and whose lives I want to change, and who I want to change the entire, you know, way that this paradigm is sitting. So that's kind of what I think. Does anybody have anything else that they want to say before we bring them back? All right, Nish, come on back. All right.
Perfect.
What sounded good to you? Give us some feedback.
Yeah, so a few things that you all talked about. We already kind of do some of that. The thing about the video calls, yes, we do a lot of that with interested parties, whoever is scheduling. So when you go to my calendar link, anybody can schedule a call and we can kind of like talk about it and all that stuff. I think that's the operational part of it, which kind of is okay as long as I talk to people uh who's already interested. After that, that's great. That it generally, the success rate is great there. We tried to do one other thing, which was and I think Anita brought this up with like emails with the all of our customers and everything. Yeah, we do that. A lot of our investors are our customers themselves, so which is great. So we do send out all of our newsletters and just email marketing at its peak. We do send that out, and one thing we did was we did a whole info session on Zoom, and there were about 40 people. And then the problem that we found, which was such an interesting problem that I had not thought about, was 40 people from all around the world who were interested in investing. Now, the 40 people had very different levels of understanding of what fundraising is.
Yeah.
Some people thought fundraising was, oh, it's just a donation that we give, versus some were savvy investors who were literally talking about, the return on investments and what's the runway, what's the burn, and all of that stuff, right? So they were like, all of that, the mismatch in terms of what fundraising was within those 40 people was so difficult to manage, because somebody who was just trying to, let's say, put in like a $500 or $1,000 just out of goodwill, and they wanted nothing out of it, now really became curious about, oh, you're going to sell that company at some point? We running that for your entire life, kind of stuff, right? So it's very hard to kind of manage expectation and answer questions in the most authentic way when there's so many diverse different people wanting different stuff. So that was kind of like the challenge that we got through, but we are hoping to do one more. I really like the idea of kind of like really putting ourselves out there, and that's kind of like what we've been trying to do a lot, what I personally have been trying to do a lot now that operations and everything is managed, where I've just recently got into this one other group, which was a very focused CPG BIPOC focused community that is helping everybody in the CPG industry who are in the minority to really thrive. And they're coming up with a lot of different stuff. In fact, I had a conversation with one of the founders yesterday. And so, yeah, I think those are some of these conversations. It's just sad and kind of sad that fundraising is it's so long of a process. And then when you're doing this while you're running the company, it's just very difficult to kind of like put focus at both sides of the whole spectrum, I guess. But then, yeah, super valid feedback there. I think one of the things that I really found helpful with the whole conversation that you had was how, and I think that's a whole company challenge that we're facing, and we're really trying to work on it, is expressing ourselves in the most simple way that the consumers can understand, be it the products that we're selling, be it the fundraising model that we're working, be it the investor returns that we're thinking, and all of that stuff. Really trying to communicate it in the simplest of language, because for us to try to, it feels natural for me to put everything that I know, here's all of the information and read it. It feels just natural, right? But see, consumers wouldn't, or people who are looking at that, they just don't have time to like read everything and all of that stuff. So that's one big point, and that's kind of like how we're rebranding the entire company, hopefully in 2024, to really make it easy to understand from a consumer perspective. So that's I think one of the big things. And then I also it's so interesting that the perks that are there for investors, it's actually just an added value. So I don't think anybody would invest because of the perks.
Yeah.
Kind of, or that could absolutely be my bias, but from my perspective, the perks are just kind of like one tangible thing that you're getting, not necessarily something, the reason why you would invest. And I think that's kind of where we're failing in terms of providing, you're actually earning a share of the company. And I think that's not included or talked about easily, because even if you're investing $250, you're probably getting 0.0001% of the company or whatever. But then you're actually an investor. You're actually getting company updates. You're actually becoming a part of the company. You're an actual preferred shareholder.
Yeah.
So I think we're failing to kind of provide that value. It actually gave me a little more clarity in terms of how complex we've made our messaging, how we can simplify that.
100%. And I love that. It's so fun to get to do these things and be able to like have different people look at it and feel confident enough to like say, hey, this is my perspective. And I think that's so potent and so valid, because it's a product and an opportunity for just any person who might, obviously your efforts are very targeted to those who might be more inclined at this point to invest, but that, essentially anybody doing anything could be a part of it, which is really special, either as a purchaser of the tea, knowing that that money is going, to that person who actually farmed it in the soil and processed it and brought it to your home, to those who want to have a piece of the company. And it's always about that messaging, like how does that journey go? How do we connect someone to what we do? And I've had a lot of success stepping out of the way myself and telling more of the story of the people who are getting benefited from the purchase or from the investment or the donation. And then, and just knowing like every organization that I work with, we're always figuring out what we're not good at telling people about, and trying to find ways to do that with a light touch. And, and that's always changing, because our attention spans, this is the number one thing we're up against with, proposals and websites and newsletters and emails, is that our attention spans are nothing anymore. Like I can barely make it through a 20-second TikTok. And, if it's not like getting to the heart of the matter. So how do we visually, emotionally, mentally pull someone in and then make it really easy for them to understand? I think the cool thing about what you're doing is that you have so much, you've done so much, and then there's also so much opportunity there to like tap in. But to your point, and we talked about this, I think in week 1 with our friction points, was it's always going to take a lot longer than what we ever imagined. And, my good friend who I've spoken about a few times now, when he started his company, he thought, I'm going to be a millionaire in a couple of years. I'll sell it off, it'll be great. And he's, it's been probably 10 years. He's still working there, and it got, went for a for-profit business that's, tech-based and super risky. For them, it was really hard for a while, and he wasn't getting paid and he wasn't doing the stuff. And, he was getting martyred to all of the process to be able to make the money, but he didn't give up, didn't give up. He believed, he saw a vision, and his funders just kept saying, the only person that pitched to me, a year ago, and you've done all the stuff that you said you were working on. And, being able to build relationship with potential investors or donors or customers, and letting them see like, I have set goals, I've achieved those goals, I continue to do these things, I'm looking for advice, I'm not asking for money. And then they come to you and say, I want to be a part of that because you've really shown me that I can trust you, and that, you know, I really love what you're doing in the world, and I want myself to be a part of that. So really cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Really exciting.
Thank
So-
you. Thank you all for kind of no, that was really helpful in terms of understanding kind of what we're lacking and what we can improve on. So thank you all.
So fun. And so this is an
Been
easy
wanting to look around your website, so this is a great
yeah.
experience to see. So 'cause after class, I'm like, okay, I got the next thing to do, and so I kind of always
Totally.
forget. So this is a
Holidays
good-
are coming up, you know. So, but yeah, so you know, I love using this structure. It provides a really nice way to get advice, and you know, it's good. You know, one thing that I like about it too is that as we were consulting, we couldn't see what his face looked like, you know, so we couldn't be like, oh, he doesn't like that idea, like, oh, you know, it was just really purely speaking from what our true reflection and reaction to the problem that was at hand was. And then, you know, being able to hear from him, oh yeah, you know, like this worked well, this, you know, this sounded good, we've already done this, that's great. And so I would encourage everyone to try it. I'll send both the Troika Consulting and the Wise Crowds instructions will be in the deck for this week. And we're halfway through. I'm going to be doing a ton of grading tonight. So if you're waiting to hear from me, you will hear this evening, my time. So yeah, so anyway, any questions before I let you out to pursue the week? Happy holiday week to those of you that are celebrating holidays. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day here in the United States. So yeah, thanks a lot. I'm gonna keep Miss Anita on the call, and I'll let all of you guys go. Great to see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Take care, everybody.
everyone. Have a
Bye.
great week.
All right.
Hey,
Hey there.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm gonna
Good.
try.
Like I said, I cannot wake up today for some reason.